Roman Reigns has been the cornerstone of WWE for years, carrying the company through its toughest era during the pandemic, and then cementing himself as the most dominant figure of the modern wrestling era. However, no matter how impactful his tribal chief persona has been, the truth is that the act has run its course, and the time has come for WWE to fully reboot Roman Reigns again. The point is not that he has failed or lost value, but that his current direction has plateaued, and if WWE does not evolve him, his character risks fading into irrelevance. Professional wrestling thrives on reinvention, and Roman is in desperate need of a reset to maintain both his personal legacy and WWE's long-term health. The dominance of the Tribal Chief was groundbreaking when it began in 2020. Roman turning heel and aligning with Paul Heyman instantly shifted perception of a man who had been rejected for years as WWE's chosen face. For the first time since his singles push began, fans embraced his presence, albeit as a villain. The Bloodline story created emotional investment because it played into real family history, cultural roots, and the psychology of manipulation and control. For years, it delivered iconic moments. The feud with Jey Uso that introduced the Tribal Chief, the Sami Zayn betrayal that produced one of the loudest reactions in years, and the matches with Brock Lesnar that finally gave Roman decisive victories over the company's biggest star. But every great storyline has a natural peak, and this one has passed it. Since WrestleMania 39, the arc has limped forward without the same urgency, turning into a cycle of recycled drama and predictable outcomes. A reboot is necessary because Roman is now booked as unbeatable to the point of damaging credibility. Every challenger has fallen the same way, from Edge to Daniel Bryan, from Drew McIntyre to Kevin Owens, and even Cody Rhodes the first time. The formula became transparent: long entrance, slow-paced match, interference from the Bloodline, and eventual victory. What was once dramatic is now monotonous. Fans are conditioned to expect outside interference, ref bumps, or sudden saves, making it impossible for Roman's matches to deliver genuine unpredictability. The very strength of his dominance has transformed into weakness, with fans losing faith that anyone can realistically beat him clean. For a character built on aura, predictability is a death sentence. Another issue is Roman's schedule. WWE reduced his appearances once he transitioned to part-time status, protecting his mystique but weakening his relevance. Unlike Brock Lesnar, who thrived as a special attraction, Roman's character relies on storytelling and manipulation, which requires consistent television presence. Instead, fans are left with sporadic appearances where nothing truly advances. This hurts the weekly product because the Bloodline segments often dominate airtime without Roman himself being there, leaving the rest of the group to carry filler arcs. While Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso have stepped up, it is still Roman's story, and without his constant presence, the act feels hollow. A reboot could fix this by giving him a new role that works with his limited schedule instead of continuing to rely on a diminished version of the original formula. Roman's aura has also suffered because WWE failed to time the conclusion of his story. The most natural climax would have been WrestleMania 39, when Cody Rhodes was at his hottest. By denying fans that payoff, WWE not only stalled Cody's momentum, but also stretched Roman's dominance into overexposure. When a heel champion reaches the point where fans stop believing he can lose, the story no longer generates tension but apathy. Roman's title reign surpassed 1,200 days, which looks historic on paper, but the longer it continues without evolution, the more hollow the number feels. History shows that legendary reigns like Bruno Sammartino's or Hulk Hogan's worked in their time because of different eras and audiences. In modern wrestling, fans demand faster progression and layered storytelling, which WWE ignored. The result is that instead of elevating Roman into untouchable legendary status, they have left him vulnerable to accusations of overstaying his welcome. Another constructive criticism lies in the handling of the Bloodline itself. Initially, it was a genius act that elevated everyone involved. The Usos became main event stars, Solo Sikoa was introduced as a legitimate enforcer, and even Sami Zayn found his career-defining run through the group. But now, the story has become more about prolonging Roman's dominance than developing others. The Usos had their moment of rebellion, but the payoff fizzled. Solo Sikoa still feels like Roman's shadow rather than an independent star. Even Sami's rise was cut short because the company prioritized Roman's record reign. By rebooting Roman, WWE can redirect focus toward ensuring that the Bloodline members emerge as credible singles stars rather than permanent background players. Roman also needs a reboot because his current heel persona has limited range left. The Tribal Chief is cold, manipulative, and arrogant, but fans have already experienced all facets of that personality. He talks about being the head of the table, he belittles his family, and he presents himself as the godfather of WWE. There are no new layers being added. Compare this to someone like Chris Jericho, Jericho, who consistently reinvents himself with fresh gimmicks, or even Triple H, who transitioned from a cowardly heel to a cerebral manipulator to a legacy-based authority figure. Roman has the acting chops and presence to reinvent again, but WWE is reluctant to move away from what worked in the past. That hesitation risks killing the golden goose they built. One option for a reboot could be to explore Roman as a fallen king. After losing his titles, he could retreat broken and vulnerable, only to rebuild himself with a new edge. This would give fans a chance to sympathize with him again without repeating his failed babyface run from 2014 to 2019. The key would be authenticity, showing Roman as a man struggling with his identity outside of dominance. Wrestling fans respond to layered storytelling, and Roman reinventing himself as someone chasing redemption could resonate far more deeply than continuing to play an untouchable tyrant. Another possibility is to lean into a darker evolution of the tribal chief. Instead of simply repeating the manipulative leader role, WWE could present him as more ruthless, cutting ties with family and becoming even more self-centered. This could allow for fresh rivalries not based on family drama, but on personal vendettas and dominance. A reboot does not have to mean turning him babyface. It could mean exploring untouched aspects of his psychology. Constructive criticism also applies to WWE's over-reliance on Roman as the face of the company. For years, creative has revolved around making him the center of everything, which inadvertently stunted the rise of other stars. Drew McIntyre, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, and even Seth Rollins have all been sacrificed to keep Roman strong. While that strategy worked in building Roman's dominance, it weakened WWE's depth. Wrestling thrives when multiple stars feel credible, but WWE created a gulf between Roman and everyone else. A reboot could allow Roman to still feel special while giving other top names the chance to flourish. It would also set up more organic rivalries rather than constant David versus Goliath retreads. Roman's crossover ambitions also complicate his current act. He has been eyeing Hollywood and other opportunities, which explains his reduced schedule. WWE needs to accommodate that reality, but keeping him as the unbeatable champion makes it difficult. If Roman disappears for months while holding titles, it creates gaps in storytelling that frustrate fans. A reboot could reframe him in a role that accommodates his schedule, perhaps as a part-time legend or special event attraction who no longer monopolizes championships but still brings gravity to major events. This would protect his mystique while keeping weekly programming fresh. There is also the matter of Roman's long-term legacy. Right now, fans are divided. Some view his reign as one of the greatest in history, while others see it as an overbooked, dragged-out storyline that harmed more than it helped. A reboot could reshape his legacy toward the positive. If WWE ends his reign decisively, then reinvents him with a fresh direction, fans will remember him not just as the tribal chief, but as a versatile performer who adapted to different eras. This would place him in the conversation with true all-time greats like The Undertaker, who reinvented himself multiple times across decades. In terms of facts, WWE ratings and live attendance have been strong, but not because of Roman alone. Cody Rhodes, CM Punk's return, Seth Rollins' consistency, and even Gunther's rise have been equally influential. Roman no longer feels like the sole engine driving business, which means WWE does not need to cling to his current act out of desperation. Instead, they should treat him as one of many top stars, which requires adjusting his role. Facts also show that Roman's title defenses have grown less frequent, with months passing between appearances. While this may protect his mystique, it hurts the product's momentum. Champions are supposed to anchor programming, not vanish from it. The constructive criticism that WWE must accept is that fans crave progression. Wrestling audiences today consume entertainment faster and demand payoffs more urgently than in past decades. WWE's insistence on dragging out Roman's reign ignored this reality. While it worked for a while, it is unsustainable. The reboot should not just be about Roman, but about WWE adapting to modern storytelling expectations. They must recognize when a story has peaked and pivot before audiences turn apathetic. Ultimately, Roman Reigns needs a full reboot because his character has hit every note it can play in its current form. His dominance has grown predictable, his schedule has exposed weaknesses, and his story has stretched past its natural conclusion. WWE risks wasting his potential by continuing on autopilot. A reboot would give him fresh purpose, reinvigorate fan interest, and allow the company to elevate others without diminishing his aura. The lesson from wrestling history is clear. The greatest stars endure by evolving. Hulk Hogan turned heel in WCW. The Undertaker transformed multiple times. John Cena adapted into part-time legend status. Roman now stands at the same crossroads. If WWE embraces change, Roman Reigns can continue defining this era rather than becoming a relic of it. This is not about tearing him down, but about protecting his value. WWE built him into an all-time great, but that greatness cannot be preserved by repeating the same formula indefinitely. Reinvention is the only way forward, and the sooner WWE commits to a full reboot of Roman Reigns, the better it will be for him, for the roster, and for the fans who want to see him thrive again.